So we begin this journey with honey graham chocolate graham crackers. Mm. Can you get enough chocolate in a chocolate cheesecake? I don't think so. So we're going to take 2 sleeves of the graham crackers, the chocolate graham crackers, and throw them in a food processor, or in this case, my Ninja. So this is my very first time making cheesecake. I think if you've watched my channel for any length of time at all, you realize that baking and me, it's a challenge. We don't always get along, but I love to eat, so that made me overcome my fear of baking. Well, every now and then it did. So let's slap the lid on that Ninja and let's start pulsing these graham crackers and turn them into crumbs. Don't worry, I will have the exact recipe below, the contents and directions. So I measured out my chocolate graham cracker crumbs, and to this we're going to add a couple things: sugar and melted butter. Now, as you'll find out as you're stirring this around a little bit and you're mixing it up, it's going to look like dirt, and you think, I need more melted butter, but you don't. You don't want this to be like a ball of anything. It's perfectly fine the way it is, trust me. Otherwise, you're going to have some greasy, gross crust, and that's not what we're about here at Jimmy Dick's. No, we're not. So you're just going to dump it all in there and take anything like a round glass, or in my case, I'm using a measuring cup, and we're going to press down in there. You're going to press it down tight because you're going to form your base, and you want it to be a solid base so that everything doesn't leak through the bottom. Don't forget to press against the sides, and look at that. Now we're going to stick that in the oven for 10 minutes. That's all. 10 minutes. Now here comes the cool part. A lot of times when you're working with chocolate, and this is unsweetened or bittersweet chocolate, baker's chocolate, you have to get a double boiler out, and you have to do all this nonsense, and you have all these pots and pans and bowls and whatnot. The only important thing you need here is a glass bowl, not plastic, because this chocolate gets really hot as it melts, and a microwave. What? That's true. You can temper your chocolate in the microwave, provided that you don't overcook it. So for this, we're going to do it in 30-second intervals. No more. 30-second intervals. And we're going to stir it every single time. So here's the microwave. We're going to close that door up, hit 30 seconds, and booyah. Now you can see after the first 30 seconds, not much has happened. But that's okay, because the glass is warmed up, and the chocolate is beginning to melt at the very bottom, or the parts that are touching the glass. So we're going to put it back in there for another 30 seconds. And bam, you can see it's starting to melt now, but still we're not done. We're not even there. So after 90 seconds, you can see that it should be done according to my directions, but in my microwave it wasn't, which is fine. So I did it for another 15, because you don't want to go too far. So 15 seconds later, booyah. But you can keep going if you need to, but it's mostly melted, so just stir it around till those chunks melt, because the residual heat from the glass and the melted chocolate will continue to cook the rest of that chocolate and melt it. You don't want to overdo it because you don't want it to separate. That's a very bad thing. So here's my crust out of the oven. Let it cool. We're going to put it on a wire rack, and we're just going to let it cool while we mix everything else up. That's all it takes. So here's an important thing. I have 3 blocks of cream cheese, and there's some sugar, but everything has to be room temperature. I can't stress that enough. Room temperature. So if you think you want to make this, take everything out in the morning, go do some errands, come back. When it's room temperature, booyah, you're ready to go. So here's some vanilla. We're going to add that in there too. We're going to beat it up with our electric mixer just until it's smooth. Super easy. And you can see right now the benefit of having room temperature cream cheese. If not, there'd be chunks flying everywhere. And that's just not pretty. It's not what we're about here in Jimmy Dick's Kitchens. Once we have that done, we're going to add our sour cream. And we're going to mix as we go. That's an important thing, because you want everything to be very well incorporated. The bad thing about, or the worst thing that can happen when you have cheesecake is to find a pocket of anything that wasn't mixed well. So all you cheesecake makers are saying, how come you haven't scraped down the sides? Well, here you go. I'm scraping down the sides. Again, the reason to scrape down the sides is just to make sure you get everything well incorporated. And you can see, look how pretty this is. All nice and smooth. Next, we're going to add our eggs. And again, room temperature. They've been sitting out for hours. And you add 3 eggs, but we're going to do them one at a time, and we're going to thoroughly mix them in. Can you imagine how gross it would be to bite into like a pocket of scrambled egg white? Ugh. That's not what I'm about with cheesecake. Cheesecake needs to be good, and you have to take your time. Because one thing about cheesecake, it's not meant to be rushed, and it's not meant to be eaten the same day you make it, unfortunately. Unless you make it very early in the morning. Because this cheesecake, after it's cooked, has to be in the refrigerator for a minimum of 5 hours to overnight. I know. That's another reason why I've not really wanted to make cheesecake, because I'm more of a bake it, eat it now kind of guy. So we're going to continue to scrape the sides down and get it all mixed up. Now comes unsweetened cocoa. I didn't know there was a sweetened cocoa, but I guess if you're thinking hot chocolate. Then we're going to add our tempered, melted, bittersweet or unsweetened chocolate that we melted. Look at that. Once we get that in there, we're going to take that mixer and we're going to mix it all up again. Again, we're going to scrape down the sides so that we don't have the marbling effect just yet, because that's going to come later. But look at this. Isn't that pretty? Let's scrape her down. And look at that expert scraping technique without getting the beaters out. So I don't have anything dripping on the sides of my counter. Isn't that awesome? All right, we're mixed up now. We're going to move on to the next step, because I did say this was double chocolate marbled cheesecake. And that next step is filling this pan up. So dump it in there. It's going to be very dense and thick, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Chocolate on chocolate. And you can see I have a little bit of the other color in there too, but that's okay. It'll bake away. So I start off using that spatula, and it didn't work good. So I got an offset spatula. And I'm here to tell you, when you have the right tools, it makes things so much easier. I'm scraping off all that goodness from the other spatula. And now I'm going to just smooth it out as best I can. All the way around, pressing it down to prevent air pockets. Air pockets aren't a good thing. Look at that. Don't you just want to eat it now? I know I do. It looks so good and chocolatey. So, I finished smoothing it out, and we're going to make the chocolate that we marble it with. Look at that. I feel like I'm just doing some concrete and artwork at the same time. So here we have, remember before I used bittersweet or unsweetened? This is semi-sweet chocolate. And we're going to do it the exact same way. We're going to break it up, nuke it for 30 seconds, and then we're going to add some heavy cream. Heavy cream? Yep, heavy cream. So we're just going to add 3 tablespoons, I believe, of heavy cream. And like I said, no need to have a notepad out. Everything will be written below. And then we're going to nuke it again. And this time, it's going to be magical when we pull it out. Watch the melting happen. You just gotta love it. So I only had to nuke it a total of 3 times, which is really awesome. So now that we have that out, you can take a scoop, you can take a measuring spoon, about a tablespoon or whatever each, and we're going to dollop it all around. Just decorate the top of it. And I found that this is not my strong suit, but hey, what do you do? So we run it through and create any design you want. Because really, in the end, who cares? All you care about right now is eating this thing. Is anybody hungry yet? Do you have a favorite cheesecake? If you do, please message me below. Now, here's something I want you to know. It's going to go in the oven for 55 minutes. I think it's 355 degrees. I have to double check. I'm going to throw it in there. And unlike regular cakes, you don't have it. It doesn't have to watch about bouncing. So how you know it's done, you give it a little jiggle. And if the center looks almost set, it's done. Now, do you take it out of the oven? No, this is cheesecake. So you turn off the oven, you crack open the door ever so slightly, and it has to sit in that oven for an hour. I see you. See you in an hour. So this was just a regular old soup can, and I put it on top of there, and you'll see why in a minute, because we're going to take apart the spring and let it drop. Look at that, because it's hot, but not so hot that I can't pick it up, which is awesome. It just helps getting it out. Now we're going to let it sit there and cool for an hour or two, and then it's going to go in the refrigerator overnight. Sweet dreams. You can see the top of it cracked. I don't care. It tasted awesome. Because on the very next night, look what we had to eat. Booyah! Hey, if you like this video, please smash that like button. Have a great day. Eat chocolate.